And the only option through Western medicine that was given to me was, we need to take your gallbladder out. And it was said to me in many ways, some kind, some unkind. But that was the only option that was given. I looked into a lot of different things. I saw a naturopathic doctor. I went to a lot of different specialists. Within a month, the gallbladder attacks were gone. Because in Chinese medicine, it's not about healing other people. It's about helping improve optimal function of their body in order to give them that gateway into healing themselves. There is room and space in our lives for these optimizing treatments that really create this wellness in our lives before sometimes we feel it.
Welcome back, or welcome to the Conscious Investor Podcast, the show where we talk about health, mindset, and wealth building strategies. Have you ever considered acupuncture? Have you ever considered the difference between Western medicine and Chinese medicine and how that impacts your health and well-being? Have you ever considered that your low levels of stress actually might lead to your early demise? My goodness. Have you considered all of the ramifications, of what low energy is like, what pain is like, what chronic illness is like? What about the pressures of leadership? There's so many areas where acupuncture is a really powerful remedy for life. And that's why when I met Bree at a BNI meeting, Business Networking International, that I just went to sample. I met her there and I was blown away. We instantly had a great conversation, and I knew I'd been looking for an acupuncturist to come and serve you, conscious investor. And I knew at that moment, I'm like, I have to have Bree on the show. So I'm so excited to welcome Bree to the show. She is an amazing expert, and we're going to dive into this entire topic of what do we do with acupuncture? Where does it fit into our everyday life? And before we go there, I just want to give you a formal invitation. It's not too late. The wish fulfillment cohorts are open, and the Wishmaker Circle is officially open. And so I want to invite you. It's not too late for you to sign up for either of those options. Wish fulfillment cohort, that is for those of you who have something. Maybe you want to discover what your inner wish is, or maybe you really want to bring that wish to reality. You want to release it to the world, and you just need a system to do that. It's a 3-month cohort. We meet twice a month, very strategically, very tactical, and it's so much fun. If you have brought wishes to life and you're looking for a group that you can rally with in doing your next big adventurous wish into the world, then you want to look into applying for the Wishmaker Circle. This is the first time I've opened this up. It's a 12-month long commitment, and it is going to just surround you in a very intimate way, very small private group. It'll just really lift you up in being able to do that next larger than life wish to reality step. All right, we're going to dive right in. Bree, thank you so much for joining us on the Conscious Investor Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Julie.
I'm so excited to dive into this concept. I had so many questions that I wanted to ask you at the BNI meeting, and then it was like, there's just not enough time. So first of all, they know that you're an acupuncturist because I already let them know that. But let's go ahead and dive into the real question, which is, what do you do? Yes, acupuncturist, but what does that even mean? What do you do, and how did you get started?
Yeah, well, I absolutely love what I do. And what I like to say about what people are going to experience is every day I get to work with people to really tap in to help them understand and live the lives that they want to live through, I like to say, a heart-centered approach. When we're stressed, when we are not feeling well, when our physical bodies are feeling the effects of mental, emotional interactions throughout the world, throughout our individual relationships, throughout our work, a lot of times that affects how and who we can be in the world. And Chinese medicine has a really deep history in looking at mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, all together in health and wellness. And what the result is for people is feeling more centered, more calm, more clarity, more energy. And really, I had one of my patients the other day come in and say, I just feel like me again. I just haven't in such a long time. And I just feel like me. And we've only done this for 3 visits. So it's really this opportunity to bring wholeness to your health and wholeness to who you are, what you're accomplishing in your life, and so much more.
I have to say, conscious investor, can you already hear why? And if you haven't already even slightly explored acupuncture, I think this is maybe already resonating with you because we're so focused on health, mindset, wealth. And when I was talking with Bree, these elements stood out to me that it wasn't just about your physical health, it was about a holistic approach to our health and well-being, about being who we're created to be. So I absolutely love that. You have an interesting story of how you got started in acupuncture and you were just about ready to go there. So can you tell us how did you even go down this path?
In my early 20s, my undergraduate degree was in outdoor recreation, and I was working with groups of kids in wilderness programs, helping them grow and learn about themselves. And I found myself in a health crisis in my early 20s, and I was in a lot of pain. I was eventually diagnosed with gallstones through Western practitioners. And the only option through Western medicine that was given to me was, we need to take your gallbladder out. And it was said to me in many ways, some kind, some unkind. But that was the only option that was given. And at the time, I had been an athlete. I had been a vegetarian at that moment in my life for many years. I didn't fit any of the, when you read about gallstones and how they happen in the body and um, what I can do to change and improve my health within my gallbladder, nothing was really fitting. And so I had this deep burning desire within myself to learn more and to better understand why my body was producing the stones and what I could do about it and keep my gallbladder. I looked into a lot of different things. I saw a naturopathic doctor. I went to a lot of different specialists. And in the end, I had a friend give me a business card and say, "Hey, this is my acupuncturist, and he's helped me when nothing else was. I think you should give him a try." And at that point in time, I had nothing to lose. I only had something to gain. And so I went and I fully dedicated my experience to what is this medicine and how does it work and what do I need to do in order to keep my gallbladder. So I did everything that the practitioner recommended. And within a month, the gallbladder attacks were gone. And I was having gallbladder attacks that were lasting about an hour to an hour and a half that were really painful. I'd have to lay down on the floor and breathe really deep in order to move through the pain. And then I would get back up and then try to get back up to work. And it really affected my ability to do my job. I, in fact, had to leave what was called backcountry work because I couldn't be with a bunch of children in the backcountry and have an emergency gallbladder attack that needed more emergency care. And so I was working more in a director's position. And within a month, the gallbladder attacks were gone. Within 6 months, I got an ultrasound and the stones were dissolved. Within a year, the sediment was dissolved. And that was I think I was about 22 at the time. I'm 45 now, and I still have a healthy gallbladder. And so that was at a point where I was only given one option through Western medicine, and nobody mentioned an acupuncture. No health practitioner I had gone to had said anything about acupuncture, Chinese medicine, herbs. A lot of the other things I did to support my health were meditation, looking at my overall lifestyle, diet. Chinese medicine is a very holistic medicine in the way that it brings together all these different components of health and wellness and has a really deep philosophy. And so that's how I began. And part of it was a bunch of anger that built up within me of a medical system that didn't recognize or have space for something that was so helpful and got such great results for me. And so I kept asking my acupuncturist questions. And eventually he turned and looked at me and asked, "Well, do you want to do an apprenticeship? Because there's obviously something you're interested in here." And so I did an apprenticeship with him for about a year as I kind of started realizing that this is not just something that was helpful to me, but that this was my life path, that studying this medicine and bringing it to people and making sure it's accessible for people and that the medicine sticks around became one of my biggest passions and still is. Because I go from a place where I'm thinking I need to schedule surgery and And there were some fear tactics from some of the care providers that I worked in that was going to be necessary or else, to then not only healing my gallbladder, but also learning a whole lot about myself, a whole lot about my path, my passion, this internal voice that I had. And that's when I shifted my career.
I absolutely love it. And Conscious Investor, this is a theme on this show where it's not just making lemonade. It's not just taking the challenges that come at us in life and making lemonade at it. It's like, I'm making lemonade at scale and serving it to others, right? And so, I mean, Bree, you could have taken this anger, and some people take anger and frustration and they go inward and they end up hurting themselves. You took this beautiful path of, I have an opportunity to help heal other people, and this is my mission. This is my purpose. I'm going to go after this full force. I'm curious when you think about and I actually, I don't know that I shared this with you, so I'm going to share this with you. I struggle with Western medicine. My dad was clean bill of health, had actually gone to, we don't go to physicians very often. And so he had a clean bill of health and dropped dead. And so at that point, that really shifted my perspective of Western medicine. And it made me very hesitant and skeptical about Western medicine, as well as looking at other friends and family members who have had different health situations. And just like you're saying, the only option is surgery. And to do something really detrimental, we're going to fuse these things permanently together. That's not how they were created to be. Like, why are we doing this? So I'm not saying conscious investor. I'm not saying that there aren't times. I don't know everybody's situation. I'm not giving any medical advice. I'm just saying my experience has been it can be so severe and it doesn't accommodate for how our bodies were created to naturally heal and form. So I think that there is oftentimes a misconception. And so, like, an over exaggeration of Western medicine is one way and Chinese medicine is another way. And so, I think that there are so many misconceptions with that. And maybe you could help just kind of give us a perspective shift on the two cultures of medical practices.
Absolutely. And my heart goes out to you to hear your story, Julie, because it's a lot of what I end up working with in my practice is supporting people through health trauma. And that's something that is a big topic now, I think, after this time with COVID and some more
Mhm.
transparency within our medical system. I am a big advocate too, as well. With Western medicine, it's needed, it's necessary, it's important, and there's a time and place for it.
Yeah.
And then I get to hear daily all these stories of challenge and loss and
Mhm.
results that weren't what people were hoping for, and really impact people's life deeply and significantly and in a negative way.
Yeah.
And one of the beauties, I'm going to kind of go back to something that you said too, of this way that I transitioned this anger into healing other people. Um, and that statement is very interesting when it comes to Western medicine, because Chinese medicine, because in Chinese medicine, it's not about healing other people. It's about helping improve optimal function of their body in order to give them that gateway into healing themselves.
Oh, I love that.
There's many practices within Chinese medicine that are very empowering
Mhm.
of information of how we can heal ourselves, how we can live lifestyles that enable our bodies to use its innate ability to heal, to actually heal. A lot of people have questions for me when they get to meet me as an acupuncturist, because they get online and they read about Chinese medicine. And
Mhm.
when we think about Chinese medicine, its roots are thousands of years old, and at a time where there was no medical terminology.
Yeah.
And so when we still speak in the language of thousands of years old medicine of how the body functions and works, there is the parallel into Western medicine, and we can parallel that with Western medical terminology. Um, Yet it wasn't there thousands of years ago. And so a lot of people become a little confused. There's these things called heat and cold invasion and liver qi stagnation and all these different ways that we talk about the body. And they're very relevant to our nervous system, our vascular system, our internal organ function. And it's all geared towards how do we optimize the function in the body so the body knows how to do what it's designed to do. So I like to tell everybody that I work with, and this is 100% truth of the medicine, is thousands of years ago, it talked about the nervous system, Chinese medicine. It talked about the vascular system and the importance of blood flow in the body. It talked about the internal organ functions down to which organ did what, and then a step further of how they all function together. One of the basic questions that the medical community and practitioners thousands of years ago asked is, how are we integrated as a whole? And then how is that whole affected when one thing isn't functioning well, or when there's an emotional stressor, or when the seasons change? And we're part of something more than just our bodies. We're part of the world we live in, and that has its influences. But it really can all be distilled down, if we want to put it in that way, to we're working with the nervous system and nervous system messages. We're working with the vascular system and blood flow in the body. Everything we need to heal travels in the blood. And if the blood can't get there, then we're going to develop some sort of symptom. And that symptom is going to be a message that something's not functioning optimally. Internal organs, yes, they need to function well, and then they need to function well together. And then in Chinese medicine, there's this word qi. The best definition that I have found as a practitioner is vital substance. Qi are the vital substance that we need in order to live healthy, vital lives. There's a lot of different types of qi. One of those types of qi is acquired qi. So we need to acquire the different things around us to put into our bodies in order for our bodies to have a positive physical reaction. Some of the examples are vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. There's also oxygen that we breathe through our lungs. There's vitamin D that comes from the sun that goes in and that we absorb through our skin. I also believe that there's a lot of other things that we're absorbing from the environment around us, but we haven't quite pinpointed them or done the research to better understand them. So there's this vital source that we get, this vital qi. There's also something called original qi, and that original qi are the things that our body produces that we don't eat, right? Synovial fluid in our joints, hormones, immune cells. We don't add immune cells to our soup so that when we eat our soup, we have them. We put the nutrients of the soup into our body, and then our body converts that into immune cells. So within Chinese medicine, it's really looking at the systems of our body, how well they're functioning. And then the beauty of the medicine is it's spent thousands of years understanding what we need to do to strengthen those systems so that our body can do what it's designed to do. So it's not looking from the external. It's not trying to protect us from the external. If it is trying to protect us from the external, it's trying to do that by strengthening our immunity, strengthening our liver function, strengthening our blood flow, helping our nervous system messages fire correctly and right, getting us out of fight or flight so that our body can have optimal function. Those are the things I like to share because that's the language we speak these days. And it's 100% relevant to how Chinese medicine works. And it is how it works.
Is it so enlightening? And I love that. I love bone broth for like when anyone gets sick in our home, it's like instant, like we're making bone broth soup, like we're doing it's all from scratch, like just like let's nourish our bodies, and our bodies are designed and created to heal. Like let's lean into that. I love that this is now so we have our home remedies. I personally, because I don't know anything, this is my first time talking with anyone in any depth about acupuncture, right? But I can't imagine I'm going to get to a point where I'm putting needles in myself and doing acupuncture on myself. I'm sure there are people that can do that, but that's why they go to you, the expert, the professional. And so there are times where we do our homeopathic home remedies where we DIY. And then there are times where we say, this is outside of my realm. I need support. So this is going to be like a twofer type question, right? When is someone going to say, okay, I want to go explore acupuncture for myself? It's going to be a threefer. How do I know I want to go explore this? how do I vet an acupuncturist? And then what can I expect when I go see an acupuncturist? Like, how are they actually going to be able to know what's going on within me, my holistic, being?
Those are great questions. So let's start with the first one. How do I know I need acupuncture? What do I need? I'm feeling fine. Everything's great. How do I know? Or maybe I have pain. Acupuncture usually can help more than it doesn't help. And I always recommend talking with an acupuncturist. Like for me at my clinic, I do something called discovery phone calls. And so one of the first ways I meet future patients is by talking with them for 15 minutes over the phone to make sure acupuncture is a good match. And so when you're thinking about is it or isn't it, I say reach out and ask. Find somebody in your local area, ask the questions that you have. And acupuncture, when we look at the thousands of years ago and how acupuncture began and the time frame, there were some serious consequences for not being a good acupuncturist. It was a time of the emperors, and the emperors would find somebody that was trained as a medical doctor, and they would hire them, and they had to take care of the imperial family. They had to take care of the empire. They had to produce. The field workers needed to be in the field. And if they didn't do their job, they wouldn't exist anymore. And so a lot of the messaging and the information and the gold nuggets that we've been passed down from thousands of years is that if we keep people healthy, it's much easier if they get sick to bring them back to health versus if somebody's already sick, then we have to bring them back to a certain level of health. And if during that time they get sick, it's much harder for them to recover and recover well. And so there's a huge portion of Chinese medicine that's all about preventative care and enhancing our health so that if we do get sick, which getting sick is not necessarily a negative thing. It's the strength of our immune system, the wisdom of our immune system. When we have a cold and we have congestion, there's a purpose to that. And that's actually our body functioning properly.
Yeah.
So making sure in this big picture of, well, when would I go? That there is room and space in our lives for these optimizing treatments that really create this wellness in our lives before sometimes we feel it. I'm always excited when somebody calls and says, well, I'm just starting to get these headaches. I've had them for a couple of weeks, but they don't seem to be going, or a month or so, and they don't seem to be going away. It's like, great, come on, let's go in. This is a pattern in your body that hasn't solidified. Let's use the flexibility in it. Let's figure out why you're having these headaches and let's treat that. Rather than somebody that's had something for 30 years and then coming, which is something that acupuncture still does support. So if in doubt, there's something that you are experiencing and you're wondering if acupuncture is a good match, give an acupuncturist a call and have a conversation. Most of us are very open to talking about what is a good match and what's not. There's very few things that aren't a good match. When it comes to things that aren't a good match, it's kind of when I have somebody come in and they have pain in their shoulder and they have no range of motion and weakness and they can't lift their arm. If they have a torn tendon, I can't reattach that tendon with the acupuncture needles. So I may be able to help that healing process. And if they do need to do something in more of the Western medical world to reattach a tendon, then I can help with that healing process. So there are things that are a great match for acupuncture, and there are things that we do have limitations. So reach out and talk to somebody. You're always more than welcome to contact me. I'll give Julie my information so people can contact me if they'd like with questions. And then how do you find an acupuncturist? You can definitely go online. I have a website. I have a Facebook page. Most acupuncturists these days do. What you're going to want to look for is that somebody's gone to a master degree program of a reputable school. That's getting a little bit more challenging because there's been a shift in the Chinese medical schooling post-COVID. Many of the top schools didn't make it through COVID. And so there's been some closing down. And I'm just stating that because it's big enough where if I'm telling you to go research where somebody went to school and you do have a school that pops up that closes, that doesn't mean that that person hasn't gotten a good education at this moment in time. But you want to make sure that they have that master's degree or a doctorate degree. You want to make sure that they have a NCCAOM certification That's a national certification that we all have in order to be licensed in the state that we practice in. And we do board exams with that. We have to pass those board exams and show that we have a certain level of competency in order to get their certification. And then call and talk to the acupuncturist. When I am recommending, a lot of the times patients will say, I have a family member that's really interested in acupuncture because they've seen the results that I've gotten. Can you recommend somebody in Kentucky or somebody in Florida? And sometimes I know somebody and sometimes I don't. But it's important that you connect with the acupuncturist and that you feel good about pursuing that care. And I think this is true across healthcare. Find at least 3 acupuncturists and interview them, talk to them, meet with them. I also do something called initial consults where I sit down and talk with somebody for about 15 minutes so that I can learn more and they can learn more. There's a lot of research out there that if we feel good with the practitioners we're working with, we're much more likely to have better results.
Yeah.
Not every acupuncturist might be the best fit for everybody, just like every physical therapist or every Western medical doctor. You need to find the person that you're going to feel the best with. So interview acupuncturists. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And then find the one that's the best match for you. And what you can expect, acupuncture isn't a magic medicine. It is more of a therapy. And that therapy takes time. So you can expect that acupuncturist is going to invite you back for further treatments. They're probably going to give you some sort of treatment plan. That first visit, they're going to want a full health history. They're probably going to ask you more details than you've ever had asked before in a medical consult. They want to know about how you're sleeping, how you're eating, your temperature of your body. We're also going to do something that's called pulse diagnosis, where we take your pulses on both sides with both of your radial arteries. And that's a system that over thousands of years has given us more insight to what's going on internally with the body. That in itself could be an amazing conversation.
Yeah, that's
and
so
then
fascinating.
they're also going to look at your tongue. They're going to ask you to stick your tongue out because the tongue is the beginning of the digestive system. And every organ contributes to the digestive system. And if that organ is not doing what it needs to be doing, it will show up in your tongue, whether that's the color of the coat, the thickness of the coat, if your tongue's thin or thick or puffy, if it's bright red, if it's pale, there's the purple colors. There's all sorts of colors that show up on the tongue.
Wow.
And all sorts of different cracks or bumps. And all of those things are diagnostics. This is a medicine that comes from a time period where we didn't have labs and technology. And so we really had to look to the human body to gain insight and information. So you can expect that. When I'm interviewing somebody, I'm also looking at their complexion. I'm wondering what their voice sounds like. Is it strong? Is it centered? Is it groany? Is it weak? Is it affecting the way that they're breathing? Their breathing affecting the strength of their voice. All of that is insight to how our bodies are functioning and feeling. Within that first visit, most acupuncturists do give you an acupuncture treatment. Sometimes they'll have you wait till the next visit for that. And one of the biggest questions I get is, does it hurt? What are the needles like? We don't have anything in our Western medical system that parallels what acupuncture is or how it feels. And most people jump in their minds to either a blood draw or a vaccination. And these bigger hypodermic needles. Acupuncture needles are incredibly thin. They're designed as a placeholder because we're stimulating the nervous system through these different points on our body that send messages to our brain that trigger our brain to release different hormones, release different natural chemicals of our body, to shift us out of fight or flight, to boost immunity, to stimulate the body to help an internal organ function better. So we're sending these messages, and these acupuncture needles are placeholders. I have a range of what people describe they feel like based on a person's individual system, and I meet people where they're at. Some people say, yeah, it's a little tender and sensitive. Other people, they don't feel a thing, and they never will because of their nervous system. But about 75% of my patients will fall asleep during an acupuncture treatment. That's something people are surprised to hear. It takes us out of fight or flight just getting acupuncture, and it puts us into a really restful, relaxing state. Any other questions about that?
Yeah, actually, that's like a because I wanted to ask you about, how and let me rewind that, edit it for a second and say, um, so often I know I carry a lot of stress. I know that the cool things that I am blessed to do, that I love to do, also create stress. And remember, conscious investor stress doesn't have to be a negative culprit. It's not like, oh, I'm angry, I'm mad, I'm stressed. It's like there can be a positive stress, like this is exciting and it's exhilarating, but it's still putting stress on the nervous system, which I am only just scratching the surface on right now. And in my own side research, right? And so it's interesting to me to think about how many of us are entrepreneurs, are in leadership positions, and we're excited and we're building and creating, and it's so much fun. But there is an underlying stress that is there that we need to be addressing. I'm curious how how effective this would be for those entrepreneurs, for the small business owners, and for leaders to be utilizing acupuncture as part of their a tool in their toolbox.
Absolutely. So, as an acupuncturist, I think the percentage right now is about 85% of acupuncturists, once you graduate from school, start your own business because it's not something that we see in hospitals. It's not something we see in Western medical clinics.
Mhm.
So, from personal experience, as an entrepreneur, as an acupuncturist, we are constantly growing and challenging ourselves when we're building a business, when we're building health, when we're building wealth and financial stability, when we're trying to live to our true potential. And one thing that Chinese medicine talks a lot about is even joy and even good things that happen to you in life are stressful.
Mhm.
And we're always in this state of where are our nervous systems? Where's our, we call it the vital qi in Chinese medicine. Where is that energy going to come from to take all of the passion we have or all of these ideas or all of the inspiration that we feel and make that real and make that turn into our reality? And that
Mhm.
process requires a lot mentally, emotionally, physically. And we can find ourselves in different ways of sleeping in, feeling like we need more sleep, or reacting and not being able to hold space within a reaction. And we're just being very reactive to different things, even though we know that that's not how we want to behave or that's not our philosophy. And so there's a lot of these different signs that will come up to show that we have stress on our nervous systems. And
Mhm.
acupuncture really does, I like to say it's our, oh, I've got to get this metaphor right that I really want to share with you, that it's the fuse that we want to switch the fuse. We're the fuse switchers.
Oh, yeah.
If we think about our bodies as a house, and I really think that this metaphor is relevant for the human body and our experience with health. If we view ourselves as a house and we have all these outlets, right? And then we have all these appliances. Mhm. And we have a heater and we have an air filter and we have a teapot and then we plug in a vacuum. All these appliances are really useful and they're tools and they help us be comfortable and they help us find this homeostasis and this great comfortable spot. And then we plug in one too many and we blow a fuse, right? And that circuit in a home, in the electrical system, was designed because if we draw too much energy at once, that building, home can catch on fire. And so the electrical system is smartly built so it has this fuse that will trip, right? Will flip the fuse and then the power will be cut to keep the house safe.
Right.
As entrepreneurs, as people that are leaders, we're constantly out there. We're
Mhm.
constantly using our resources for good. We're developing, we're producing, we're learning, we're growing, we're plugging in, we're plugging in. And at some point, we're going to blow a fuse. And we may have already blown a few fuses. And we might feel somewhere deep within us that we need support or we need something, but we don't have a cold or we don't have this type of pain. But we're feeling off and we need something to promote this wellness. We need to take care of ourselves. We need that self care so we can be resilient. I like to describe that acupuncture is that going over and flipping that fuse again so that the circuit can go back in or can loop again, so that energy can flow, so that we can feel that vitality. Because none of those appliances are broken. None of the wiring for the electrical system is broken, but we've just
Mhm.
got on overwhelm and overload. And when we go there, then we can't function and feel the way that we want to. The key part of that too, that's the beauty with Chinese medicine, is we don't leave out, well, what did you have plugged in? And maybe we need to unplug an appliance, or maybe we don't need to unplug that appliance. Maybe we need to unplug that appliance, but you still need heat. And maybe you need to have a wood burning stove to still give you that heat, but give it
Yes.
to you in a different way that doesn't overwhelm the system. And that's a uniqueness about Chinese medicine. And at least the way that I practice Chinese medicine is really being there for my patients in that mental, emotional, physical integration of wholeness, so that people can be the people that they are, and that they're innately, they're meeting their full potential, and they're living their dreams, and they're reaching that reality that they see, but they're not so sure how to get to. Because a lot of times those blockages, we can have all the right plans, we can have all the right teachers, we can go through all of the growth and development, but we still feel stuck, or we still feel like there's a relationship that then has been sacrificed in some way with that interaction, or we have to be there for our kids. And how do we do it all? And a lot of times it's, well, let's assess what's being plugged in. Let's flip
Right.
your switch and your fuse. Let's give you some energy back. Let's reset your system. Let's boost the function of your nervous system, your vascular system, your internal organ function. And many times we get stuck in patterns that aren't serving us anymore. We know that with how we behave, but that's how we heal, and that's how we function internally with our health. Is there can be messages in your nervous system that are firing that don't need to be firing anymore. And if you're a leader and you're an entrepreneur, you're putting yourself out there in a lot of different ways, and you're continuing that self-growth, and you're continuing to ask questions, and you're continuing to evolve. And so that's a really important a way that acupuncture can support entrepreneurs and people that are really wanting to meet their full potential in their life. Is there's most definitely, and every person that I've worked with that's a leader, an entrepreneur, there's a lot of fuses that get blown within that process. And acupuncture really does reset that, so that you can come back and you can feel that stability that you've built.
This is so powerful. And I want to also just like expand your paradigm, conscious investor. When we talk on this show about leaders, that is a very I'm going to make sure I want you to be expansive when you hear that word leaders, because many people, I would say most of us, are leaders in some capacity. If you are a stay-at-home homemaker, you are a leader. You are the CEO of a business that feels probably like a nonprofit. And as a former stay-at-home, homemaker, I know that that role is extremely demanding, and oftentimes it's overlooked as a position of leadership. And so I want to just affirm you. And these days, this looks like that could be mom, that could be dad, that could be a lot of different things. So if you are wearing that hat and that's your role, that is a leadership role. If you're a coach of a team, and maybe you have a traditional 9 to 5 job, W-2 job, but you are coaching a team, or you are leading, you are the point person for something in an organization of any kind, you're in a position of leadership. And oftentimes we can consider that leaders are only people who are the face that we see out there on whatever, company or organization. And so I just want to encourage you to expand and say, where am I a leader in my life? And how is that taxing my life for good, or for, areas where we want to improve that? Because just too often we're overlooking that we really are leaders, and we're minimizing our roles in life. And so this is where working with someone and exploring other health modalities to support you is so important. And as you've listened to this conversation with Bree, there's so much more we want to talk about. We came into this like we want to talk about COVID, we want to talk about stress, we have so many other topics that we want to talk about in relation to acupuncture and the supports of it. And I knew we'd run out of time. So I want to encourage you, conscious investor, as we wrap this up, that consider your role as a leader. Consider, what would this look like if I explored Chinese medicine? What if I looked at acupuncture as part of my self-care regimen to prevent myself from having all the lights shut down in my house? That's such a great metaphor, Bree. It was like so relatable, especially for those of us who love real estate so much. I do have a follow-up question with that as we wrap up, and that is, what would that protocol for, say, for a leader who doesn't have any um, obvious ailments, right? So, someone who is not presenting with, organ failure or organ problems, like, hey, happy, healthy person, but a leader who wants to be preventative. What does that time investment look like? Because that's really what a lot of leaders are looking at. And again, if you're a leader through being a homemaker, you've got a crazy schedule. So it applies to everyone. So I'm curious, like, how much time should be allotted and allocated, and what does that cadence look like?
Absolutely. So, within the cause and effect of acupuncture, we need a certain amount of interaction with somebody in order to help create change in their body. So typically when I'm working with somebody that says, "Oh, I don't really have much going on, but uh, I'm a leader, an entrepreneur, I have a lot of stress in my life." Typically I start with 2 days a week for maybe 4 weeks. Then I drop it down to 1 day, one time a week for maybe another 4 weeks. Then I back it off. And that's that just beginning, because we want to change patterns that have already been set, and we need to invest some time in that. Once somebody's gone through that, okay, let's optimize function. We've gotten to optimizing that function. I had a mentor say, the intensity of somebody pursuing lifestyle acupuncture is the intensity of their life. So for some people, that
Wow.
might mean they come in once a month, and that is what they need. For other people, that's maybe there's a big physical component, or maybe there's a big mental and emotional component in what they're doing. And so for them, a better match would be twice a month. Maybe
Mhm.
somebody else, it would be every other month. So acupuncture is very much a customized medicine to meet the person that we're working with. So although there is some very good tools that we have learned of understanding, and an experience we gain to understand how to create change and hold that change, and there is this part of Chinese medicine is that we all have our own ecosystems, and we need to treat that person in front of us in the best way that person needs to be treated.
Mm. I love this. There's so much more here, Bree, where like I want to go into the how can this help behavior and psychological, like, because it is a holistic approach. I'm totally going to need to nerd out on acupuncture now. I knew I was going to, but I was researching some other things. But I can already tell you, I would love to have you back on the show to dive into some of these topics that we didn't have time to explore. So hopefully you'll say yes, and we'll have that conversation, offline. But how can, if someone is, wanting to look at what your work is, especially here, I'm going to throw a couple, I'm coming out of the gate. She might need to edit this, but I'm saying we're up in North Idaho, right? Breeze and Sandpoint. And so if you are listening and you are in proximity, so you're maybe in Washington, or maybe you're in Tri-Cities area, or you're up in Kalispell or something, like maybe this becomes part of your practice. Because those of us who live in these areas, we know we drive for the things that we need in life. And maybe you're someone where, I don't know, maybe you want to travel out. Like, that is actually a thing. And I know a lot of you travel for other health support. So all that to say, there could be some options for you. Bree, how can they follow your work and just learn more about what you do?
Absolutely. So I have a website. and it's northidahofamilyacupuncture.com. I also have a Facebook page, so you can search for me on Facebook. And you can always send me a message. My website does have the comment area, so if you want to send me a message, I'm happy to answer through there. My email address is bree@northidahofamilyacupuncture.com. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that anybody has. Anytime, no question should go unanswered right now about acupuncture. It's something that has gained traction in North America, but still has a long way to go for accessibility. And a lot of times when we can just talk to somebody, that opens up the door for us to be able to understand, to take that leap into something new and get help that maybe we never thought was possible.
I just love that. Thank you so much, Bree, for, just pouring into the conscious investor community and just allowing us to have line of sight on something that may have felt so far out of reach before. And conscious investor, if this served you, please share this. This is, I believe that acupuncture and Chinese medicine, that it is very misunderstood, or it's sometimes stigmatized or put in a box. And we label it in a lot of ways that reflect probably our own worldview that we were brought up with. And I think it's really important that we allow ourselves to explore, how can this support my health, so that we are bringing out and able to live fully into who we're created to be. So if this served you, if this episode served you, please share this. Help be an ambassador in just spreading that word and starting a conversation, because this is a conversation that a lot of times is in quiet pockets and corners of the room, and it's not center stage in many situations. So I want to encourage you to just simply spark a conversation by sharing this. And you can just say, it doesn't mean that you're in love with the idea. It's just this, I'm curious about this. And maybe, hey, friend, what do you think about this concept? Start the conversation. Okay. And make sure you connect up with Bree, especially over on Facebook. Follow her page and see what's going on, and reach out to her if you have any questions. Bree, this has been so much fun. It has been so eye-opening for me as someone who is new to this concept. And I just want to say thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure.
Awesome. Until next time, conscious investor, remember, life is a limited time offer, so let's live it well.